Welcome, everyone. It's Tuesday, September 2, 2025, and we are definitely diving deep today. Think of this as, your shortcut to being incredibly well-informed. It's a space for conversation, for reflection, where we explore together scientific, social, environmental, political, economic, and statistical topics, plus, of course, current events in El Salvador and around the world, all with, let's call it a fluid and easily understandable intellectual curiosity. We're basically breaking down key events that help us all better understand the reality around us. And we've got, an incredible stack of information for you today. We're drawing from multiple Salvador newspapers, international wires too, to give you a really comprehensive view. Okay, let's unpack this. September 2, 2025. Welcome to News El Salvador SV. This is that space for conversation and reflection where we explore together all those scientific, social, environmental, political, economic, and statistical topics and current events, naturally, in El Salvador and globally, all with that fluid and hopefully easily understandable intellectual curiosity. Each deep dive comments on and breaks down key events, helping you better understand the reality around us. Find us for free. You know the drill: YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Deezer, or other platforms you might use. And look, if you find value in these deep dives, please consider supporting us. You can find us on PayPal. The username is PayPal2025-186. Just write it all together, PayPal2025-186. Remember, your contributions really do help pay the bills so we can keep providing this content. We are News El Salvador SV. Follow us, share, comment. We definitely want to hear from you.
Indeed. And the sources we pulled together today, they really paint a vivid picture of just how dynamic things are, from the big geopolitical stage right down to very specific local happenings here in El Salvador. What's truly striking, I think, is the sheer diversity of it all. All these events happening at the same time, and they all contribute to this complex, interconnected tapestry that affects us all, really. Our aim, as always, is to try and distill these different threads into meaningful, maybe even actionable insights for you. The goal is you don't feel overwhelmed, but hopefully feel empowered by the knowledge and the connections we can maybe draw out.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So let's start with some of the big headlines making waves globally. There's a lot of action, it seems, on the international front today. It really reflects ongoing tensions and these evolving power dynamics that are constantly reshaping our world map.
Global geopolitics and international affairs. A snapshot of September 2, 2025.
Okay, first up, we have multiple reports coming in from Diario El Mundo, El Diario de Hoy, and La Prensa Gráfica, all buzzing about former President Trump. He's making a claim that 11 members of the notorious Tren de Aragua gang were eliminated in what he described as a lethal attack on a drug smuggling vessel, this one in the Caribbean. Now, the key detail here, and this is interesting, is that the operation was reportedly executed by the U.S. Southern Command against a boat transporting drugs originating from Venezuela, and this seems to be part of a maybe broader U.S. military deployment in international waters near Venezuela. So what's the real significance here? What does this operation tell us, especially with those geopolitical undertones?
Right, well, this operation against Tren de Aragua, it's probably not just another drug bust, It signals, I think, a potentially significant shift towards more kinetic offshore interdiction. And with clear geopolitical undertones, Tren de Aragua, for anyone maybe not familiar, is a highly dangerous Venezuelan transnational criminal organization. They're known for their extensive reach, brutal tactics across Latin America, involved in everything from drug trafficking to human smuggling, extortion, you name it. So a direct military strike like this, it tells us that maybe traditional land-based law enforcement is being augmented by naval power. It could signal a new, maybe more aggressive front in the drug war, and one that could potentially escalate tensions with Venezuela. The key takeaway, I think, is we might expect more maritime confrontations, a more complex regional security chessboard, really, as global powers directly confront these illicit networks far from their own borders. It's a strategic move, probably aimed at choking supply lines, but it's definitely not without diplomatic risks.
That certainly paints a picture of heightened stakes, doesn't it? And speaking of Trump, El Diario de Hoy notes he also stated he'll send the National Guard into Chicago and Baltimore, despite local opposition, which is, a powerful statement from a former president, likely aiming to influence domestic policy discussions. Then La Prensa Gráfica reports him dismissing rumors of his passing as fake news, which just underscores this constant battle with misinformation, right? Especially online.
Yeah, it's relentless.
And then there's the financial angle. His family's fortune reportedly jumped by $6 billion after launching a cryptocurrency. It's a busy day for those headlines. Touching on everything from national security, civil liberties, that fight against misinformation, and this intersection of public figures with emerging financial markets. What do these seemingly disparate pieces tell us about his continued influence?
Well, indeed, they really do collectively paint a vivid picture, don't they? A figure who continues to command significant media attention, exert considerable influence across multiple domains. That threat, or promise, depending on your view, of deploying the National Guard, particularly against local opposition, it really highlights that ongoing tension between federal and local authority in the U.S. Different approaches to urban crime, governance. It forces a conversation, right, about the balance of power.
Definitely.
The battle against fake news is, well, unfortunately, it's a constant in contemporary politics, and it really just underscores how important critical media literacy is for all of us. And the foray into cryptocurrency and that reported financial gain. That's a fascinating development. It demonstrates how public figures are increasingly leveraging these new digital assets, not just maybe for personal wealth, but also as a way to engage with and maybe mobilize their base in new ways. It's kind of a diversification of influence beyond just traditional politics, showing a keen adaptability perhaps to these new financial landscapes.
Interesting. Okay, moving away from the U.S. for a moment, Diario El Mundo brings us news that drones, specifically kamikaze drones, have reportedly left 300 gang members dead in Haiti. That's a truly stark statistic. It points to an incredibly volatile and frankly violent situation that just seems to keep escalating.
Yeah, staggering numbers.
Meanwhile, back in the U.S., the House of Representatives has published over 33,000 pages of the Epstein case, a development that, well, it could bring more clarity, maybe, to a long-running saga, and potentially shed light on the networks of individuals involved in his illicit activities. These are both huge stories, but for obviously very different reasons. What's the sort of core takeaway here on global security and justice from these two items?
Well, the situation in Haiti, with that incredibly high casualty count from drone attacks, it really underscores the extreme and often devastating measures being taken to address these profound security crises, especially in regions just plagued by entrenched gang violence and political instability. It's a pretty somber illustration of the intensity of conflict in the region and, the technological sophistication now being deployed in these efforts. It speaks to a desperate struggle for control, really.
Yeah.
The release of the Epstein documents, on the other hand, represents a different, though equally crucial, kind of transparency. One aimed more at accountability and justice in these high-profile legal cases involving powerful figures. This kind of public disclosure often fuels public demand for justice, for stricter oversight, and maybe a reckoning with the systemic issues that allowed such crimes to persist for so long. So the core takeaway, maybe it's this dual challenge: addressing overt violence, sometimes with extreme measures, while also pursuing accountability for those covert abuses of power.
Right, two very different forms of seeking control or justice. We also have La Prensa Gráfica reporting on 2 Spanish Jesuits condemned to a year in jail in Bolivia. This was for covering up pedophilia cases. It's a stark reminder of these ongoing issues within institutions globally and that persistent struggle for accountability from within. And then on a much more tragic human scale, La Prensa Gráfica shares the story of a man who shot and killed an 11-year-old boy. The boy was apparently playing ding-dong ditch in the U.S. These incidents, they're so different, but they both force us to confront, the state of justice and human interaction in our world. What's the thread, if any, connecting these difficult narratives?
They are indeed very difficult stories. And they highlight both, I think, systemic failures and the just devastating consequences of individual actions. The Jesuit case, it speaks to that critical need for institutional reform, for accountability, particularly in organizations that hold positions of moral authority and public trust. It's a global issue, certainly not confined to one region or institution. And these convictions, they represent a significant step, perhaps, towards addressing past injustices and ensuring the safety of vulnerable populations.
A small step, maybe.
Perhaps, but a step nonetheless. Meanwhile, the ding-dong ditch incident, while it seems like a minor prank gone horrifically wrong, it is just a stark and heartbreaking reminder. A reminder of the complexities of human interaction, perception, and frankly, overreaction in daily life. It encourages us, I think, to think about how societies address justice and security on multiple levels, from these large institutional structures dealing with long-standing abuses, right down to individual responsibility in preventing tragic violence within communities. The common thread. Maybe it's the search for justice and the imperative to protect the innocent.
On a different note, but equally significant geopolitically, La Prensa Grafica also notes a triangle of powers. That's China, Russia, and India. They're described as uniting in what's seen as a challenge to Trump, or perhaps U.S. policy more broadly. This suggests a significant shift in global alliances, maybe a rebalancing of geopolitical influence.
Potentially, yes.
And simultaneously, Diario Salvador mentions a giant iceberg that broke off Antarctica 39 years ago is now melting. What's particularly insightful here, maybe, is seeing these vast geopolitical maneuvers happening alongside these pressing environmental realities. How do these two seemingly disconnected forces actually influence each other?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the formation of power blocks, that's a constant in international relations, right?
Yeah.
But this particular alignment, China, Russia, India, it does suggest significant shifts towards a more multipolar world order. This triangle of powers could indeed present a formidable challenge to existing international dynamics and maybe the foreign policy of major Western nations. It could reshape trade routes, security agreements, diplomatic allegiances, you name it. Simultaneously, that melting iceberg, it's a natural phenomenon initially, sure, but now undeniably influenced by climate change. It's a stark, tangible indicator of a scientific reality, a reality that continues to demand urgent global attention, regardless of political alignments. So the profound question it raises is, how do these vast geopolitical realignments accelerate or maybe hinder international cooperation on critical existential issues like climate change?
That's the key, isn't it?
It really is, because often short-term geopolitical priorities can overshadow these long-term environmental imperatives.
Yeah.
Yet ultimately, the environment affects everyone, regardless of which power block they belong to. The interconnectedness just means a warming planet will impact all nations' economies, resources, stability, eventually forcing these powers to confront a shared threat. They'll have to, sooner or later.
That's a powerful point about the long-term view eventually catching up. Okay, let's bring it closer to home now. Let's dive into the daily happenings and the big picture developments within El Salvador. We're looking at reports from Diario Salvador, Diario El Mundo, El Diario de Hoy, and La Prensa Grafica. There's quite a lot to discuss on the governance and security front, which, continues to be a central focus for the country.
National developments in El Salvador: governance, security, and public life.
Okay, so a significant claim kicks things off. It comes from Felix Ulloa, the vice president, in Diario Salvador. He's stating that the Bukele model is key to achieving 1,000 days without homicides. That is a very bold statement, and if the numbers hold up, it represents a major shift in public safety, a remarkable achievement for any nation, really.
Absolutely remarkable, if accurate.
However, La Prensa Grafica also highlights that a disparity, a difference, in the count of violent deaths in El Salvador has persisted since 2022. This suggests there might be nuances, complexities to these figures. How do we reconcile these two perspectives, and what does the Bukele model actually entail for those maybe less familiar?
Right, this is a really critical discussion point, and we do have to approach it with nuance. The Bukele model, as it's widely understood, involves this highly assertive, often controversial approach to gang suppression. It relies heavily on the declared state of exception, mass arrests targeting alleged gang members, and of course the construction of that mega prison, the ITCOIN. And this model has indeed yielded dramatic, publicly reported drops in homicide rates. There's no denying the official numbers have plummeted.
Right, the official numbers.
Exactly. And for many Salvadorans, this is translated into a tangible sense of increased security, a feeling that they can reclaim public spaces. However, that mention of a disparity in violent death counts by La Prensa Grafica is absolutely crucial. It urges us to look beyond just the headline numbers and really consider the methodologies. How is data collected? How is it reported? Are certain categories may be excluded? It raises that important question about transparency and accountability in official statistics. So the key insight here isn't just the numbers themselves, but the ongoing debate about the trade-offs. How much individual liberty, due process, human rights might be perceived as compromised in exchange for this enhanced public safety, and what are the potential long-term social and economic costs of such a high-pressure security strategy? It's a really complex picture, a country grappling with security in truly unprecedented ways.
That distinction, between perceived and reported security and those associated trade-offs, that's essential for a truly informed understanding, isn't it? Okay, beyond those broader numbers, we are seeing other specific legal actions taking place. Diario El Mundo reports MS gang members were condemned to 35 years for aggravated femicide. That shows severe consequences for truly heinous crimes.
Yes, a strong sentence.
And Diario El Salvador mentions 15-year sentences for foreigners caught transporting cocaine in a semi-submersible. So it seems the legal system is actively addressing serious crimes, both domestic and transnational, with pretty significant penalties. What do these specific cases tell us about the current state and maybe the effectiveness of the justice system?
Well, these cases, they definitely underscore the ongoing, persistent challenges of crime, both domestic, like that tragic femicide you mentioned, and transnational, like the drug trafficking. They also demonstrate the judicial system's efforts to respond decisively, with significant penalties. That 35-year sentence for aggravated femicide, it sends a very strong message against gender-based violence, which is a critical issue in many societies, including El Salvador.
Critically important.
And the 15-year sentences for the semi-submersible drug transporters, these are often highly sophisticated operations. Remember, that highlights the country's role in combating these international illicit trade routes. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, it suggests a justice system actively working to deter criminal activity, to ensure accountability. It's leveraging both domestic law and, likely, international cooperation to tackle these complex forms of crime. It's sort of a tangible manifestation of that broader security strategy in action through the courts.
Right, the courts playing their part. Now, here's where it gets particularly insightful, maybe even concerning on the governance front. El Diario de Hoy reports on a corruption network in prisons. This network allegedly charged inmates or their families for visits. This is based on a Cristosal investigation. This is a critical issue, right? It goes straight to the heart of institutional integrity. It's a direct affront to the rule of law, frankly.
Deeply corrode.
And perhaps even more concerning, El Diario de Hoy also conducted its own investigation, revealing that the DOM, that's the Dirección de Obras Municipales, the Municipal Works Directorate, delivered $8.5 million to a company that then abandoned works in 7 schools. Just gone.
Wow. $8.5 million.
Yeah. So what does this all mean for public trust, for accountability, especially when funds meant for essential services like education are involved?
These reports of corruption are, well, they're deeply troubling, and they really do strike at the foundation of public trust in government institutions. The alleged prison corruption, if it's true, it highlights significant vulnerabilities within the penal system, where even basic rights like family visits could potentially be exploited for profit. This compromises the human dignity of inmates, their families, and really suggests a deep-seated institutional rot, potentially. Similarly, the abandoned school projects and the substantial public funds involved. $8.5 million for 7 schools is not a small amount. That points to potential serious issues. Issues in public project oversight, contract management, and perhaps a severe lack of accountability for taxpayer money.
You'd think there'd be checks.
You would. And it raises that important question about the mechanisms. What checks and balances are in place to ensure public funds are used effectively, ethically? The key insight from these corruption reports, I think, is that even aggressive security crackdowns don't automatically fix institutional rot. They're separate issues, often. Public trust in El Salvador hinges not just on reducing street crime, but on demonstrating consistent ironclad accountability for every single dollar of taxpayer money, particularly in vulnerable sectors like education and prisons. Without that, cynicism can really erode even the most significant security gains.
That's a stark reminder, isn't it? That security extends far beyond just crime rates. It has to include integrity. Okay, on a related, maybe more mundane but still significant note, Diario El Mundo mentions that the QIAM, the Cuerpo de Agentes Metropolitanos of San Salvador Centro, the Metropolitan Agents Court, they made nearly 600,000 withdrawals of unauthorized sales during 2024. That's a huge number. It shows an active and extensive effort to regulate public spaces, to clamp down on informal commerce, which can be a really complex task in any big city. What are the broader implications of such a widespread regulatory effort?
Yeah, that statistic from the CAM, nearly 600,000 interventions. It is quite significant. It really indicates a widespread enforcement effort against unauthorized vendors, informal commerce. It reflects an active government approach aiming for order, cleanliness, official regulation, and public spaces. Now, while this can certainly contribute to, urban revitalization efforts, adherence to municipal codes, it also raises important questions about the livelihoods of these informal vendors, who often represent a significant portion of the urban economy. For many, these informal sales are their only source of income, their only way to get by.
Exactly. It's a tough balance.
It really is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's an ongoing challenge for many cities worldwide, isn't it? How do you balance urban order and formal economic structures with the realities of informal economies? And with the need for accessible economic opportunities for all citizens, especially the most vulnerable, it demands a really careful balance of enforcement with, ideally, social support and alternative pathways for those affected.
Absolutely. Okay, now a major political development that's dominating headlines: the ongoing debate around constitutional reforms. El Diario de Hoy reports that a citizen movement is actively denouncing proposed reforms. Reforms that would allow for indefinite presidential re-election, extend the presidential term to 6 years, and eliminate the second electoral round, the runoff.
These are fundamental changes.
Hugely fundamental. Citizens are even asking the CSJ, the Supreme Court of Justice, to declare indefinite re-election unconstitutional. And international voices are weighing in too. El Diario de Hoy cites Alianza Americas condemning the reforms as potentially irreversibly weakening the democratic balance. This feels like a profound moment for the country. What does this all mean for the future of El Salvador's democratic institutions?
This is, without a doubt, one of the most significant and consequential developments for El Salvador right now. And what's fascinating here is the vigorous reaction, both public and international, to these proposed constitutional changes. The concepts involve presidential term limits, election processes, the balance of power. These are absolutely foundational to any democratic governance structure.
The bedrock, really.
Precisely. Allowing indefinite presidential re-election, extending the term, eliminating a runoff.
Yeah.
These can profoundly alter a nation's political landscape. They potentially concentrate power significantly and limit those essential checks and balances that are designed to prevent abuses.
Right.
The strong opposition from citizen movements appealing to the Supreme Court, the condemnation from international organizations like Alianza Americas, it all indicates deep concerns. Concerns about the potential implications for democratic institutions, for the rule of law, and for the long-term stability of the country's political system. It really highlights this tension, doesn't it, between perhaps arguments for government efficiency or continuity and the need for democratic safeguards. It's a fundamental debate about the kind of democracy a nation chooses to uphold. And historically, similar moves in other Latin American nations have certainly led to concerns about democratic backsliding, and that's the lens many observers are applying here.
That historical context is crucial. Okay, shifting gears a bit, let's look at community life. Diario El Salvador and El Diario de Hoy both report that public schools across the country have started Lunes Cívicos Civic Mondays. These are aimed at commemorating national symbols and promoting civic values among students.
Interesting initiative.
Yeah, and La Prensa Gráfica also has videos showing El Salvador applying courtesy regulations in public schools, trying to foster respect.
This feels like a concerted nationwide effort, doesn't it? Reinforcing social norms, trying to build a more cohesive society right from the ground up, starting with the kids. What kind of impact could initiatives like these have on the nation's social fabric?
Well, this is a wonderful example, I think, of a proactive social initiative aimed squarely at civic education and character building from a young age. Lunes Cívicos, Civic Mondays, they're designed to instill national pride, democratic values perhaps. While the courtesy regulations aim to foster respect, positive social interactions. These probably aren't just isolated programs, they likely represent a concerted effort to embed these fundamental values into the daily lives of students, and by extension, into the community at large, contributing maybe to a sense of order, shared purpose, hopefully. It raises an important question, though. How do these initiatives actually contribute to a broader sense of national identity and social cohesion over the long term? And what are the lasting impacts of this kind of value-driven education on societal behavior, on democratic participation down the line? It's really a foundational investment in the future of the nation, aiming to shape a generation that is perhaps more engaged, respectful, and civically aware.
A long-term play, for sure. And on a similar note, maybe Diario El Salvador also announced the first global summit on human rights to be held in El Salvador. The stated goal is contributing to global dialogues on human rights protection. This seems like a potentially significant step for the country on the international stage, signaling a commitment to join that crucial global conversation. What's the broader context, though, for a summit like this being hosted in El Salvador right now?
Indeed, hosting the first global summit on human rights is a significant move for El Salvador, both symbolically and perhaps practically. It positions the country as an active participant, maybe even aspiring to be a leader, in these vital international discussions around human rights. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these summits are crucial platforms, aren't they? For sharing best practices, addressing challenges, fostering international cooperation on human rights.
Right, a forum.
Exactly. And given the ongoing discussions around those constitutional reforms we just talked about and the security measures implemented under the Bukele model, this summit presents a really unique opportunity. An opportunity for both internal reflection within El Salvador and external engagement with the international community. It's a chance for El Salvador to articulate its own human rights vision on the global stage and for international experts to engage directly with the country's evolving human rights landscape. It will be very interesting, I think, to see how the domestic and international narratives on human rights converge or perhaps diverge during this event.
Absolutely one to watch. Okay, finally, in this segment, we have a mix of other local reports. Stories that paint a picture of daily life and ongoing concerns for Salvadorans. These include a daughter asking for clemency for Catalino Miranda, the former bus magnate, so he can die at home, a plea for humanitarian consideration within the justice system.
Difficult case.
We also hear of a man tragically buried after a wall collapse in Quezaltepec, a stark reminder of everyday hazards and maybe infrastructure issues. Simiduco, the Salvadoran Educators Union, is alerting on school desertion, kids dropping out, potentially due to the unification of schools in rural areas, highlighting perhaps unintended consequences of policy changes on education access.
That's a serious concern.
Yeah, and the unfortunate murder of a young nurse in Santiago de Maria, with her ex-partner named as a suspect, brings that ongoing issue of gender-based violence right back into focus. La Prensa Grafica also reports on a mother of a detainee under the state of exception being called to identify police who allegedly arbitrarily arrested her son, pointing to serious concerns about due process.
Right, the procedures matter.
And organizations are planning a march for political prisoners on September 15th, Independence Day, indicating active civic engagement and ongoing debate around human rights. Also, sort of rounding it out, 4 men were arrested for stealing church images valued at around $4,500. So what does this collection of stories, this mosaic, mean for the daily lives and the core concerns of Salvadorans?
Well, these are all incredibly important local stories. They really reflect the daily realities, the challenges faced by Salvadorans across so many different aspects of life, from personal tragedy to these broader societal issues. The plea for Catalina Miranda, it speaks to those humanitarian concerns within the justice system, the desire for compassion, even for those incarcerated. The tragic wall collapsing at Quezaltepec is that somber reminder of vulnerabilities maybe to natural hazards, maybe infrastructure quality, and the need for resilience.
Yeah.
The school desertion issue, as highlighted by Simiduco, points directly to the educational impacts of policy changes, particularly in rural communities, and the need for really careful implementation to prevent negative outcomes like reduced access to education. The murder of the young nurse, with domestic violence potentially as a factor, sadly just underscores that persistent societal challenge of gender-based violence. It hasn't gone away.
No, unfortunately not.
Furthermore, those reports, the mother called to identify police in an alleged arbitrary arrest, the planned protest march for political prisoners, they underscore the complexities surrounding human rights, due process, freedom of expression within the current security strategies. They highlight that ongoing dynamic between state actions and citizen experiences, and the persistent efforts of civil society to advocate for change, for accountability. And even the theft of church images, while it might seem minor in comparison, touches on cultural heritage, community security, respect for religious institutions. If we connect all this to the bigger picture, these individual events, they contribute to a broader understanding, an understanding of social justice, public safety, human rights, and just the quality of life in the country. They remind us that national narratives aren't just built on grand policy statements, but on the sum of countless individual experiences, right?
That's a crucial reminder. The pulse of a nation is often felt most clearly in these individual stories. Okay, let's now shift our focus. Let's look at the economic pulse of El Salvador, how it's impacting daily lives, and also some interesting social initiatives going on. Our sources, Diario Mundo, Diario El Salvador, El Diario de Hoy, and La Prensa Grafica, they provide some fascinating insights into the financial health and the development trajectory of the country.
The Salvadoran economy in social progress, money, development, and daily living.
Okay, a pressing economic issue highlighted by Diario Mundo right off the bat. The poorest households are dedicating more money to electricity payments. This directly impacts disposable income, quality of life, for a really vulnerable segment of the population. It forces difficult choices, I imagine, for families already struggling to make ends meet. What's the wider implication of this, especially for social equity, economic stability?
Yeah, this issue of electricity payments, disproportionately hitting the poorest household. It raises a really important question about the distribution of economic burden, especially for essential services like electricity. When the most vulnerable families have to allocate a larger proportion of their already limited income to utilities, it creates a significant financial strain. It just does.
Of course.
This can exacerbate existing inequalities. It can push families deeper into poverty, reduce their ability to spend on other necessities, food, education, healthcare, you name it. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it often signals a need, doesn't it? A need for targeted social programs, maybe energy subsidies, or even potentially reforms in how utility prices are structured to mitigate the impact on these vulnerable populations. Addressing this is crucial, not just for humanitarian reasons, but also for ensuring broader social equity and fostering economic stability within the country. It's that challenge of balancing the costs of providing services with the actual capacity of citizens to pay.
That makes perfect sense. It's definitely about more than just the utility bills themselves. Okay, on a broader financial scale, El Diario de Hoy and La Prensa Gráfica both report that the pension debt has grown by more than $396 million just between January and July 2025.
Wow, in just 7 months.
In 7 months. This is a substantial increase in a relatively short period. It could have really long-term implications for the country's fiscal health and, of course, the financial security of future retirees. It creates a significant challenge for public finance management. What's the real significance of this growing pension debt?
Well, what's fascinating and frankly concerning here is the sheer scale of that increase. Nearly $400 million in just 7 months is an alarming rate. Pension systems, as we know, are fundamental pillars of social stability. They underpin the financial security of an aging population. So a rapidly growing debt signals potential future challenges, big challenges in meeting commitments to retirees down the road, which can lead to social unrest, a lack of confidence in the government's ability to manage its finances.
Yeah, it erodes trust.
Absolutely. This demands really careful fiscal planning. It demands potential reforms to the pension system itself, maybe adjustments to contributions or benefits or investment strategies for the funds. And it requires sustainable long-term strategies to ensure its viability. It encourages us, I think, to think about the sustainability of public finance over the long term and its impact on future generations, who will ultimately bear the burden of this debt if it's not addressed proactively. It's kind of like a ticking fiscal time bomb, isn't it? It requires immediate and serious attention.
It certainly sounds like it. And speaking of pensions, La Prensa Gráfica notes that the Solidarity Pension Program for the elderly has actually been reduced by 7,000 beneficiaries.
Oof, 7,000 people.
Yeah, that's a significant cut for a very vulnerable group. Requests for labor history to retire have also increased by 30%, indicating maybe more people are actively seeking to access their benefits, perhaps feeling the pinch.
Maybe.
Also, Salvadorans living abroad are getting information now on how to request pension savings refunds, or get a quote, or affiliate with an AFP, an Administradora de Fondos de Pensiones, a pension fund administrator. These are pretty significant shifts, aren't they? Affecting many people, both domestically and internationally. What do these combined changes tell us about the evolving nature of Social Security in El Salvador?
Right, these are all critical details within that broader pension discussion. And they really paint a picture of a system undergoing significant changes, maybe significant stress. The reduction in beneficiaries for a solidarity program that directly impacts the elderly, a highly vulnerable demographic. It points to policy adjustments that could have substantial social consequences. It suggests a tightening, perhaps, of criteria or maybe just available resources for social welfare. The increased request for labor history, that 30% jump, likely indicates, as you said, a heightened demand for retirement processing. Maybe due to demographic shifts, maybe economic pressures forcing people towards retirement, or changes in eligibility rules, and providing information for the diaspora regarding their pension savings. That's an important recognition, isn't it? Recognizing the financial ties that connect Salvadorans abroad to their home country, acknowledging their contributions, allowing them to access their entitlements.
Yeah, that seems fair.
It does. But it all raises an important question. How do these changes aim to balance fiscal responsibility and the sustainability of the pension system with the social welfare needs of the population, both at home and abroad? And critically, how effectively are these complex changes being communicated and managed to minimize negative impacts on citizens who rely on these systems?
Communication is key there. Okay, shifting to a potentially more positive economic note, El Diario de Hoy reports that construction activity really pushed the economy forward in the first semester of 2025. This indicates a sector experiencing robust growth, which, as we know, often creates jobs, stimulates related industries like manufacturing and services, and can have a strong multiplier effect across the broader economy.
The construction is often a bellwether.
Exactly. And Diario El Salvador highlights some really significant investment news. Announcements of $3.2 billion for a megacity project in La Union, and Urbanica, a major developer, executing what's called a historical $1.5 billion investment over 10 years in El Salvador. Alongside this, over 5,000 new social interest homes are reportedly being executed. What does this all mean for the country's development and its economic outlook?
Well, these are indeed very positive indicators of economic dynamism, strong investment confidence, it would seem, in El Salvador. Large-scale construction and housing projects, especially something like a $3.2 billion megacity in La Union or Urbanica's $1.5 billion long-term commitment, that signals significant engagement from both the public and private sectors in infrastructure development.
Big money.
Big money, big projects. And projects like these can have a profound ripple effect across the economy, leading to substantial job creation, skill development, hopefully improved living standards for many. The execution of over 5,000 social interest homes also directly addresses that critical need for affordable housing.
Which is huge.
Absolutely huge. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these kinds of investments can potentially attract further capital, both domestic and foreign. They can contribute to sustained economic growth, positioning El Salvador perhaps as a more attractive destination for regional and international businesses. It's a clear sign of a robust development agenda, seemingly focused on foundational infrastructure and housing, which are really essential for long-term prosperity.
Good to see that balance with social housing, too. And Diario El Salvador also reports that INAVE, that's the National Institute for the Integral Development of Youth, is supporting families to improve their homes. So that shows a sort of social safety net element, a smaller scale initiative, alongside those larger, more ambitious investments.
Right, grassroots support.
Yeah. Also, Japanese companies are reportedly showing interest in buying Salvadoran cacao. This could be a significant boost for local agriculture, for exports, bringing in foreign currency and supporting rural economies. What do these more granular initiatives add to the economic narrative?
Well, these are excellent examples of targeted initiatives that really complement those larger economic development strategies we just discussed. In INAVE's support for home improvement, that directly addresses the living conditions of families. It fosters a better quality of life, dignity at the community level. That's a crucial aspect of holistic development, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
The interest from Japanese companies in Salvadoran cacao is particularly promising, I think. It highlights the potential for value-added agricultural exports. Moving beyond just raw commodities to higher-value goods, this can provide significant income for local farmers, help diversify the economy, and integrate El Salvador more deeply into global supply chains for specialty products. It raises an important question, though. How can the country really leverage these niche agricultural products, like high-quality cacao and these community-level supports, to build a more resilient and equitable economy, fostering sustainable benefits right from the grassroots up?
Building from the ground up, yeah. El Salvador is also making a mark regionally, it seems. Diario El Salvador noting its standout performance in the regional fight against the screwworm. Now, this might sound obscure, but it's a significant achievement with big agricultural and economic implications. This pest can devastate livestock and agricultural production. What's fascinating here is how these sometimes unseen public health initiatives can have such broad economic benefits, way beyond just animal health.
Oh, absolutely. Controlling agricultural pests like the screwworm is vital. Vital for food security, vital for the economic health of the agricultural sector, which forms a significant part of many regional economies. The screwworm can cause massive losses in livestock. It impacts farmers' livelihoods directly, national food supplies indirectly. So El Salvador's regional leadership in this effort, it demonstrates effective public health and economic policy coordination. It shows how countries can work together effectively to tackle common threats that don't respect borders.
Yeah, pests don't need passports.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This raises an important question about how such successes can maybe be replicated in other areas of regional cooperation, whether it's managing other agricultural pests, addressing cross-border diseases, or collaborating on shared environmental protection challenges. It really highlights the power of concerted regional action, where that collective effort yields substantial economic dividends for all the participating nations.
Cooperation paying off. Okay, switching to consumer protection. Diario El Salvador reports that the Defensoría del Consumidor, the Consumer Ombudsman's Office, is alerting the public. alerting them about fire and burn risks associated with certain electric chainsaws, a critical product safety warning.
Good to get that out there.
Yeah. And La Prensa Gráfica also notes that over 450 complaints against financial cooperatives were remitted, sent over, by the Defensoría to the FGR, the Fiscalía General de la República, the Attorney General's office, up until August 2025. That shows a substantial volume of consumer issues, particularly in the financial sector. What's the broader role of these alerts and actions in maintaining market trust and stability?
Well, these consumer alerts, like the one about the chainsaws and these complaint numbers, they highlight the ongoing need for vigilance, for robust protection in the marketplace. Whether it's ensuring product safety or addressing grievances against financial cooperatives, ensuring consumer trust and safety is just fundamental for a healthy, fair economy.
The Defensoría del Consumidor plays a crucial role here, acting as that safeguard for citizens.
Right, the watchdog.
Exactly. And remitting over 450 complaints to the Attorney General's office, that signifies a serious commitment, doesn't it? A commitment to investigating and potentially prosecuting alleged fraudulent or unfair practices within the financial sector. It encourages us to think about the essential role of these regulatory bodies, protecting citizens from harm, from fraud, from unfair practices, and how they contribute to a transparent and trustworthy marketplace where consumers can actually make informed decisions with some confidence. Essential functions. Finally, on the business front, La Prensa Gráfica details what the electronic signature in El Salvador is, who can use it, how to process it. This points towards a modernization of business processes, right? A move towards a more digital economy.
Definitely a step in that direction.
Also, Diario El Mundo has an editorial discussing benefits for the diaspora and for returnees, calling these efforts a path in the right direction, but emphasizing the need for their return to be sustainable, safe, and productive. So what does this all mean for El Salvador's future economic competitiveness and maybe social integration as well?
Well, the implementation of electronic signatures, that's a crucial step. A step towards digitizing, streamlining administrative and commercial processes. This fosters efficiency, reduces paperwork, bureaucracy, and can potentially attract more investment by making business transactions faster, easier, more modern. This is really vital for modernizing the economy and improving its overall competitiveness on a regional, maybe even global scale.
Makes sense.
The editorial on the diaspora, that highlights the immense importance of leveraging human capital.
Right.
And, of course, remittances, the money sent home by Salvadorans abroad, which is a huge part of the economy, while also ensuring that their reintegration, if they choose to return, is successful, that it's sustainable, beneficial for both the returnees and the country. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these are all elements that contribute to building a modern, thriving economy and an engaged citizenry, recognizing the value of both technological advancement and those strong human connections, especially with the diaspora, for national development. It's about building a future that leverages both digital tools and that vital human potential.
That's a great encapsulation, that blend of tech and human focus. Okay, let's explore the vibrant cultural tapestry now. The triumphs, the challenges in the world of sports, and those compelling human stories that really give life to the headlines. Our sources, Diario El Mundo, Diario El Salvador, El Diario de Hoy, La Prensa Gráfica, they offer a really rich blend of these elements, showing the multifaceted nature of human experience and national identity.
Culture, sports, and human stories. The heartbeat of El Salvador and beyond.
All right, starting with culture. Diario El Mundo highlights a tribute to the legendary singer Juan Gabriel. This brought together Mexican and international fans in Ciudad Juarez, showcasing the enduring power of music to unite people, even across borders.
A true icon.
Definitely. And closer to home, Diario El Salvador announced the official presentation of the 14 candidates for Miss Universo El Salvador 2025, a pageant that, always captures national attention. La Prensa Gráfica also has photos of the hopefuls. What do these urns, from international tributes to these national pageants, tell us about cultural identity and national pride?
What's truly fascinating here is how these cultural events, whether it's a heartfelt tribute to a beloved music icon like Juan Gabriel or a national beauty pageant, they serve as really significant touchstones. Touchstones for community, for identity. They offer moments of shared experience, celebration, national pride. They allow people to connect over common cultural touch points, often transcending demographics.
Right.
Juan Gabriel's enduring legacy. It just speaks to the universal power of music, doesn't it? The Miss Universo El Salvador pageant, meanwhile, It's a national spectacle. It garners immense public interest. And it reflects perhaps a country's aspirations, its aesthetic values, and maybe a unique way of presenting itself on a global stage.
Yeah, it's a big deal locally.
It is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these events aren't just entertainment, are they? They're reflections of collective values, aspirations, and they help define a nation's cultural narrative, both internally and how it's perceived internationally. They provide platforms for showcasing national talent, beauty, and fostering that sense of collective identity.
Interesting perspective. And speaking of unique discoveries, El Diario de Hoy reports on a new species of fungus, Aspergillus salvadorensis, discovered by a Salvadoran scientist.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, this is a fascinating scientific achievement, but also a cultural one, right? Putting El Salvador on the map for biological discovery.
Absolutely. That's wonderful news.
And La Prensa Gráfica also dives into Salvadoran history, detailing 7 pre-Columbian ball game courts that have been discovered, 10 medicinal plants used for centuries, and even how people amused themselves in colonial times with bullfights and cards, apparently.
Different times.
Different times indeed. It shows a rich historical heritage, deep roots, long-standing traditions. What's the significance of these scientific and historical findings for national identity today?
Well, these are truly aha moments, aren't they? They profoundly enrich our understanding of El Salvador. The discovery of a new species by a Salvadoran scientist, Aspergillus salvadorensis, that's a testament to local scientific talent. It's a tangible contribution to global knowledge. It highlights the country's rich biodiversity and the intellectual capacity of its people. This isn't just a biological finding, it's a real source of national pride.
It should be.
It absolutely should be. The historical insights from the Prensa Gráfica are equally compelling, I think. They offer that tangible connection to the deep past, providing a deeper understanding of the roots of Salvadoran culture and society, from ancient sports like the pre-Columbian ball game to traditional medicine using local plants, and even the leisure activities of colonial times. It raises an important question. How do these cultural and scientific contributions collectively shape El Salvador's identity on the world stage, fostering both pride in its rich heritage and recognition for its modern scientific achievements? They really reinforce a sense of a long and vibrant national story.
Yeah, connecting the past and present. Okay, in entertainment news, La Prensa Gráfica reports that Yandel is returning to El Salvador, but with a symphonic show.
Oh, interesting twist.
Yeah, promising a unique musical experience, blending reggaeton with orchestral arrangements. That could be something. And Studio Ghibli Fest is coming to Salvadoran cinemas with 11 films, bringing those beloved animated classics to the local audiences.
Big news for anime fans.
Definitely. Diario El Salvador even mentions a couple from Argentina conquered the World Tango Championship in Buenos Aires, highlighting global artistic excellence. These events bring diverse forms of art and entertainment to the public, enriching the cultural landscape. What do these cultural offerings signify for the public here?
Well, this really highlights the vibrant cultural exchange happening and the diverse tastes of audiences in El Salvador, from major Latin music stars like Yandel doing something unexpected like a symphonic show, to animated film festivals celebrating the rich storytelling of Studio Ghibli, and even following global triumphs like the World Tango Championship. These events enrich the cultural landscape. They provide opportunities for shared experiences, for appreciation of art in its many forms.
Broadening horizons.
Exactly. It encourages us to think about how access to diverse cultural content contributes to a broader, more informed, and culturally rich citizenry, fostering appreciation for both local and international artistic expressions. These offerings suggest a demand for varied entertainment, a growing appetite for global culture, which can also help foster empathy and understanding across different societies.
Culture as a bridge. We also have some really poignant human stories that ground these broader narratives. La Prensa Gráfica shares an emotional letter, written by a journalist assassinated in Gaza, to her son. It's a stark reminder of the profound human cost of conflict, the personal tragedies behind those global headlines.
Heartbreaking.
Truly. And El Diario de Hoy pays tribute to Ricardo Poma, the late businessman. His legacy included, among many things, breaking the mold in private investment in protected natural areas, demonstrating how individuals can make a significant positive impact on environmental conservation.
A different kind of impact.
Yeah. What's the key takeaway from these two contrasting human narratives? One of loss, one of legacy.
Well, these stories, they truly ground the broader narratives and individual experiences, don't they? That makes them incredibly impactful. The journalist's letter from Gaza, it's powerful, it's heart-wrenching, a testament to the personal tragedies behind geopolitical conflicts, reminding us of the immense human suffering involved, the ripple effects of violence on families.
Human cost.
Exactly. Ricardo Poma's legacy, on the other hand, illustrates how individuals, particularly those with influence, with resources, can drive positive change, particularly in critical areas like environmental conservation. His breaking the mold in private investment in protected areas, that shows visionary leadership, perhaps, a commitment to long-term sustainability. So this raises an important question, I think, about the role of individual agency and maybe empathy in understanding and responding to global and local challenges. How do these personal narratives inspire action? How do they foster a deeper sense of connection, responsibility in society, pushing us to look beyond just statistics to the human element behind it all?
Yeah, remembering the people involved. Okay, turning to sports now. Diario El Mundo, El Diario de Hoy, and the Prensa Gráfica all report that El Salvador's U17 national football team, La Selecta Sub-17, fell to Real Betis at the start of their European tour.
Tough start.
Tough start. But El Diario de Hoy also quotes one of the U17 players, Bonilla, saying, "We're going to a World Cup, not on vacation."
Love that attitude.
That's a great mentality, right? Showing resilience, focus, despite the loss. Also, Diario El Salvador notes, maybe with some regional pride, that Guatemala hasn't beaten La Selecta, the senior team, in World Cup qualifiers for 48 years.
48 years, that's quite a streak.
It is. So what do these sports stories, spanning aspirations and these long historical rivalries, mean for national sports identity and pride?
Well, what's fascinating here is that powerful blend, isn't it, of aspiration and historical rivalry that really defines Salvadoran sports, like many nations. The U17 team's determination, even after an early loss to a strong European opponent like Real Betis, speaks volumes about their competitive spirit, their long-term goals for the national program. And Bonilla's quote, "We're going to a World Cup, not on vacation," that perfectly captures the seriousness, the dedication involved in their journey. It's inspiring for a nation.
Totally.
Meanwhile, that 48-year winning streak against Guatemala in World Cup qualifiers, that's a source of considerable national pride, historical significance, demonstrating a consistent dominance in a key regional rivalry.
Bragging rights.
Absolutely bragging rights. If we connect this to the bigger picture, sports really do transcend mere competition, don't they? They are powerful unifiers, fostering a profound sense of collective identity, passion, national spirit within a country, reflecting its resilience, its aspirations on a global stage. They create these shared emotional experiences that really bind communities together.
Yeah, nothing quite like it. And there's even more in the sports world. Headlines include bodybuilders preparing intensely for the Central American Games, showing dedication to athletic excellence in other disciplines. Man City's Donnarumma replacing Ederson in goal, Ilkay Gundogan leaving Man City for Galatasaray. Those highlight the dynamic global world of international football transfers that fans follow closely.
Always moving pieces.
Always. And young Salvadorans enjoying the Junior NBA Selection Camp 2025, reported by Diario El Salvador, that indicates grassroots sports development, fostering future talent.
Good to see.
Yeah. La Prensa Gráfica also reports on Marcelo Arevalo, the Salvadoran tennis star, and his partner Mat Pekovic exiting the U.S. Open 2025. And Seattle Sounders winning the league's cup. Plus, Diario El Salvador has videos highlighting incredible local talents, like Uriel Canjura, the badminton player heading to the Olympics.
Badminton, fantastic.
Yeah. And Gabriela Izaguirre, the karateka, aiming for a Pan-American gold medal. What does this diverse array of sports news tell us about El Salvador's place, maybe its aspirations, in the global athletic landscape?
Well, these diverse sports stories, they really demonstrate the wide reach and universal appeal of athletics, don't they? From global transfers and pro leagues that connect local fans to the international drama, right down to local youth camps fostering participation and the inspiring Olympic aspirations of individual athletes. The bodybuilders training for the Central American Games, that shows intense dedication, national representation. The Junior NBA camp highlights those grassroots efforts to develop talent. And the individual achievements of athletes like Uriel Canjura in badminton, heading to the Olympics, Gabriela Izaguirre in karate, aiming for Pan-American gold. They are particularly inspiring. They showcase Salvadoran talent, dedication on a broader international stage.
Putting the country on the map.
Exactly. It encourages us to think about the multifaceted role of sports in personal development, fostering discipline, teamwork. in community engagement through fan support, and in national representation, bringing pride and visibility to the country through athletic excellence. It's a powerful tool, really, for social mobility, national identity, connecting local dreams to those global arenas.
That's a great overview of the passion and dedication there. Okay, finally, let's venture into the fast-paced world of technology and innovation. Our sources, particularly Diario El Salvador, give us a glimpse into some fascinating developments and their sometimes complicated societal impacts. Everything from artificial intelligence to digital currency.
The digital frontier and emerging technologies, innovation, and its implications.
Okay, here's where it gets particularly insightful, maybe even a bit startling. Diario El Salvador reports that the AI company Anthropic has tripled its valuation. Tripled in just 6 months, to an astounding $183 billion.
$183 billion.
Oh, wow. That kind of growth is truly mind-boggling. What does that kind of explosive growth actually signify for the wider tech landscape beyond just that one company? But, with great power comes great responsibility, right? The saying goes.
Indeed it does.
The same source, Diario El Salvador, also highlights Australia's move to combat AI-generated nudes and online harassment. And it points out that AI is being used as a tool by, quote, novice cybercriminals, and that AI-generated fake videos, deepfakes, are feeding sexism online. So what does this tell us about the future of technology and society, trying to balance this incredible innovation with these really serious ethical concerns?
Yeah, this is a truly pivotal area right now. And what's fascinating, or maybe alarming, is that dual nature of technological advancement. You have this incredible potential for innovation, for wealth creation, as shown by that Anthropic valuation, contrasted immediately with these profound ethical and societal challenges popping up. That $183 billion valuation for Anthropic, tripling in 6 months. It isn't just a number, is it? It's a statement about where immense capital is flowing. It's a massive bet on foundational AI research. Particularly, it's worth noting, from a company, Anthropic, that emphasizes AI safety and ethics right from its founding principles. So investors are betting on that approach too, maybe.
Interesting distinction.
It tells us investors believe strongly in this next wave of AI, and the company's leading it. However, the rapid emergence of misuse cases, like the creation of AI-generated nudes for harassment, its adoption by novice cybercriminals making hacking easier, the perpetuation of sexism through deepfake videos. These are equally, if not more, significant right now.
Yeah, the dark side emerges fast.
It really does.
Yeah.
The crucial takeaway here is that this exponential growth in AI valuation speaks to its transformative potential, its perceived economic value. Yet the immediate ethical challenges, misuse for harassment, crime, sexism, are incredibly significant. This raises that important question, doesn't it? About the speed at which technology is developing versus our ability as a society to legislate effectively, to establish ethical guardrails, to implement protective measures. Are we keeping up?
Seems like we're lagging behind.
Often feels that way. It encourages us to think critically about how we harness these powerful tools responsibly, ensuring that innovation actually serves humanity, rather than just creating new avenues for harm.
That's a sobering perspective. That speed versus responsibility dilemma. Okay, on a more local note, but still within the digital realm, Diario El Salvador features Stacey Herbert. She's discussing El Salvador being the first to custody and now to defend a national Bitcoin reserve.
Right, the Bitcoin experiment continues.
It does. This is a pioneering position on the global stage, given El Salvador's bold adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender a few years back. And La Prensa Grafica details the process for obtaining a digital signature in El Salvador, which further indicates a commitment to digital transformation in governance and commerce. What's fascinating here is how El Salvador is actively engaging with these frontier technologies, positioning itself as an innovator, maybe even a test lab in the digital space.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, El Salvador's bold stance on Bitcoin and the development of digital infrastructure like electronic signatures, it does position the country as one that's actively exploring new economic and administrative paradigms. The concept of a national Bitcoin reserve is truly groundbreaking. It has potential global implications for financial sovereignty, for technological adoption, maybe for new models of national treasuries, who knows?
Uncharted territory.
Absolutely uncharted. This early adoption demonstrates a willingness, doesn't it? A willingness to embrace risk, to embrace innovation, which could yield significant long-term benefits, or it could present unique challenges depending heavily on market volatility and future regulatory developments globally.
High risk, high reward, maybe.
Potentially. The digital signature initiative, on the other hand, that's a more concrete step toward modernizing bureaucratic processes. making business and governance more efficient, hopefully less prone to corruption. This raises an important question. How will these early adoptions, both the Bitcoin experiment and the digital infrastructure push, shape the country's economic future, its financial stability, its role in the global digital economy as other nations kind of cautiously observe its progress? It's a real-world experiment, isn't it? With potentially far-reaching consequences. And it definitely puts El Salvador at the forefront of digital economic innovation, for better or worse.
One to keep watching closely. Beyond El Salvador, Diario El Salvador also reports that China now leads the world in nanotechnology patents. This signifies a global race in cutting-edge research and development. It shows how different nations are carving out their niches in the technological landscape, vying for leadership in the next generation of industrial and scientific innovation. What's the broader significance of a country like China dominating in this particular field, nanotechnology?
Indeed, leadership in areas like nanotechnology patents, it reflects a nation's immense commitment to innovation, its strategic positioning in future industries. Nanotechnology, for instance, has the potential to revolutionize just about everything, from medicine and material science to energy and electronics. It's literally about reshaping the world at an atomic and molecular scale.
Mind-bending stuff.
It really is.
Yeah.
China's dominance in this area isn't just about the raw numbers of patents filed. It signifies a strategic, long-term investment in scientific research and development that will likely have ripple effects across numerous sectors for decades to come. These technological advancements are key drivers, aren't they, of economic competitiveness, national security, global influence. It encourages us to think about the long-term impacts of these technological races on global power dynamics, on economic leadership, and ultimately on the quality of life for people around the world. These patents aren't just legal documents. They represent control over future capabilities, future industries.
Wow, what an incredible journey through the news and events shaping our world, both globally and right here in El Salvador on this September 2, 2025. From the intricate dance of international politics, the evolving security landscape here, to the vibrant pulse of local culture and that rapid, almost dizzying pace of technological innovation. We really covered some significant ground today. I really hope this deep dive has given you a clearer picture, maybe sparked some genuine aha moments, and perhaps even fueled more curiosity.
Indeed. The confluence, the coming together of these diverse events really highlights the profound interconnectedness of our world, doesn't it? We've seen how a single day can bring news of global policy decisions, local development challenges, vibrant cultural celebrations, and the profound, often challenging implications of emerging technologies like AI. Our mission, as always, is to help you not just consume information, but to truly try and understand its significance, its broader context. And this raises maybe an important question for you to ponder. Given the rapid pace of change we've discussed, especially in technology and geopolitics, how do you see yourself adapting? And what role do you think individuals play in navigating these shifts, whether here in El Salvador or anywhere else in the world? How do we keep up?
Absolutely, that's a great question to leave folks with. And that's our goal with every deep dive, to equip you with the knowledge to connect those dots for yourself, and to consider your own place within these larger narratives. Remember, each episode comments on and breaks down key events that help us better understand the reality around us. You can find us for free on YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Deezer, or other platforms. And if you do find value in these deep dives, please consider supporting us. You can find us on PayPal. The username is PayPal2025-186. That's PayPal2025-186, all together. Your contributions, honestly, they really do help pay the bills so we can keep bringing you this content. We are News El Salvador SV. Follow us, share, and comment. We genuinely love hearing what stands out to you. So as you go about your week, maybe consider this. How might the seemingly disparate events we've discussed today, let's say El Salvador's proactive, maybe risky, stance on a national Bitcoin reserve, and the global proliferation of AI-generated content, both good and bad, how might those actually be connected in ways that will shape the future of economies and societies, not just in El Salvador, but worldwide? Sometimes the biggest insights emerge when you start connecting the unexpected, Reverend. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.